Morning. Welcome to Writer's Circle. Great to see some of my favorite people. Hello, hello. Hi, Carol. Hi, Stace, Erica, Brittany. Great to see everybody. Jamie, welcome back. Hi, Leslie, rock star of all time. Super great to see everybody. Take a deep breath. We're back. I was just talking to another new community member, and reflecting on how many people say how hard it is to sometimes show up to this call, but then once you're here, you're happy you made it. Anybody have some like, I don't want to go, shouldn't do it, I have other things. Awesome. So first of all, I want you to actually recognize how significant it is to have had the challenge and overcome the challenge. You made it this far. If they had a sticker chart, I would have given you a sticker. So give yourself a sticker, okay? Every week we come back because we have something to write. And we come back because the process can be overwhelming, emotionally overwhelming. Raise your hand if you've had it in the last week. Emotional overwhelm. Awesome. Congratulations. Logistic overwhelm. Like I sort of don't know how to proceed in this thing from a very tactical approach. Anybody have any logistical overwhelm? Hi, Rochelle. Cool. Stace, I have to appreciate your background, by the way. So thank you for taking us celestial. Okay, so emotional overwhelm. See the hands again? Leave one hand up. Awesome. Logistical overwhelm. Awesome. Okay, this is epic. So I don't want to have everybody speak on it, but can I have a couple people speak on one or the other? Just like, what was the actual thing and what did you do about it? Does that, yeah, Carol.
So mine was, you made a comment in Circle last week about if you're writing a business book and you have your chapter outline and you're going from A to B to C to D, that sometimes that's not the right order and you need to shuffle the deck. And that really resonated with me because I finished chapter 2, which was my goal. And then I looked at chapter 2 and went, it's not the right place. And I went back and I looked at kind of my outline and like took all my post-it notes and threw them up in the air. And it was like, oh, now I feel like I'm kind of like took one step forward and like 10 steps backwards, but I think it'll get me into a better place because Leslie made a comment about how much time she spent on her outline, but then when she did, the writing became that much easier. So that's kind of what I'm going through right now. It's like feel like I'm starting over, but crafting my outline in a way that I think will make the reader's journey better.
That, okay, I know it's a weird reaction, but I love that struggle. It is, you don't love it, and that's okay. You're like, screw you, Sierra, you're enjoying my suffering over here. However, I would much rather you throw everything up in the air at the end of chapter 2 than the end of chapter 12. Okay. We all come into this process with so many unwritten stories that we are operating under and we don't realize. Like, I started writing a book at the beginning of January. I told the whole group that I'm writing a business book and my name is Carol, and that was a huge success. And now it's just going to be smooth sailing from here on out. We're going to burn that story to the ground. Okay. I hear the 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or 1 step forward, 10 steps back all the time. We hear this expression. And what's the underlying message of that expression? What do we actually mean?
Well, I took a step forward, right? Which is progress. Yeah. But then I realized that I needed to make some adjustments and I need to fix it. So
yeah, but this is super good. And I love that elevated thing. The feeling that I get when I say this or hear it is I suck.
Failure.
Failure, right? Like, yes, I took 1 step forward and I took 2 steps back. And so I did. All right. Take a deep breath with that feeling and that sentiment. Okay. Breathe it out. we're going to make a new story about one step forward, two steps back. You ready? It's Latino. I live in Colombia. Do you know what one step forward, two steps back is? It's salsa. So next time you're doing one step forward, two steps back, I need you to do a little shake and like have some fun at it. And like, yeah, I am. Can you imagine a dance that was just like straightforward?
Pretty boring.
So boring. Oh my God. There's no sexiness. There's no fun. There's no mistakes. There's no creativity. But we are trained that that is the only shape of success. It's boring. It sucks. So I want you to salsa. Subtext. Dance is one of the hardest things for me in the world. Up until recently, it was my deepest fear. So the fact that I'm giving you an example of dance as like this wonderful breakthrough thing, whatever your relationship with dance is, it's still fun. It's beautiful. It's fluid. It's creative. It's innovative. It is imperfect. And it is something that you do with a partner. Right now, you are dancing with your story. You're going to dance with your reader. But come hell or high water, try to have fun. How's that for a slight reframe? I love that you threw it all up.
I mean, it makes me feel better. So thank you. And I will do some dancing, not in front of everybody here on the camera, but I will.
Feel the feeling and then reframe, right? I love it. Thank you, Carol, for sharing that because you are not the only one. You will not be the only one. Probably won't be the only time in your own journey that you have this, but it's such a valuable lesson for everybody to have. So thank you for having that struggle. Somebody else. An emotional and or logistical obstacle. Yeah, hi, Rochelle. You're muted. Oh, there you are. Got it. Okay.
So logistical, I understand when I was going through one of those classroom courses, it was talking about like the moon phases and which phases are you in. And apparently I'm going through multiple phases at once. And it also made me realize that like, because this is how I am in life too. I tend to multitask a lot, a lot, a lot. I mean, even my business is a combination of multiple things.
Yep.
That's just how I've always functioned. And so it made me realize, oh, like I have touched on an outline, I've touched on the mind map, and I've been writing. And then I just kind of bounce between the three instead of like one first, then the next. And it made me also realize that in that process, in my own processing, I was like, oh, I see what you mean when you said when we're writing, like it might be multiple books in one. And so I had to refer back to mind mapping and outlining because I was like, wait, I'm writing too much about different things.
How does it feel to have that realization?
Go back to logistics and my like building my foundation.
Does it feel constraining or a relief?
Oh, I totally disregarded the feeling part. Relief. Yeah. Just like, oh, I was doing that. Just like in life.
Okay, this is awesome. You know, when a baby is born and they're fussy, we swaddle them. You like shake that constraint. We relax when there's that tightness, when there's a container. That tracks for everybody. The planning part of this process creates the container. It holds you tight so that you're not like, oh, I'm all over here. I don't know what to do with all of my parts, right? Little babies, they grow in the womb and then it just becomes this like small ass room, right? But they're really safe. and they know where it begins and ends. And your outline can serve as that, like, oh, I'm way out there. I don't need to work on out there. In my business, I have a parking lot. It's like a mental, emotional place that I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, but I'm not getting in that car and driving it around right now. Okay, take an idea and I put it in ClickUp or on a Google Drive or on a Post-it. Okay, digital or physical, whatever. I'm like, I love this idea, but I'm currently driving 6 cars. I don't want to lose that idea, but I don't want to get out of the car I'm currently driving. So 2 things. One is it's absolute. I love that you're in the resources because we're going to talk about that a lot today. I love that you're finding some information, reflection. How we write is going to break open wide for you, how you live, how you work, how you everything. The book that I'm working on is exactly on this, okay? Because when you see how you create, how you operate, how you function, it's gonna bring insights to parts of your life you didn't realize. There is not one right way to go through this process. I want you to see, oh my gosh, I'm resting, planning, drafting, and revising all at the same time. Yeah, probably. A lot of women I know are, we say we're like juggling a lot of balls. I'm like, oh, screw that. I'm juggling circuses. Each thing I have that's up in the air is its own circus. There's monkeys, there's a ringleader, there's a lion, there's like popcorn vendors, but I'm juggling a lot of different moving parts. It's not that you need to change that necessarily. Again, please never let me dictate how you are creative or how you show up in your life. Notice when you're outsourcing authority to other people. Try not to do that. Listen to me in this part. Don't listen to other people. Listen to yourself first. But I love the 4-part creation process because it just makes you more self-aware. Because if you are cycling through several of the processes, but maybe always skipping rest, Rochelle, I know it was one of the things that we were going to add to your list of like, I'm going to rest like I mean it, or find inspiration. Again, there's not one right way to do this, okay? In a single day, I can hit all 4 of those things. I rest, I recharge, I plan my day, I execute my day. And then at night, I'm like, how'd that go? Did it work? Will I do the same thing again tomorrow, or will I make tweaks? That's the same process, which is why I love it so much. If you're writing, drafting, and planning at the same time, you might not have done as much planning as you needed in order to write completely, right? And then we're just trying to move a little bit too fast. So you could notice that and say, okay, I actually need to slow down. I'm very aware of my cell phone use. If I'm gonna go to a new place, I check the map, I look at the route, and then I drive. I know a lot of people get in the car and hit like, tell me where to go, but they have not done their proper plan, like they have not planned. And I know cell phones are made to do this now. They're like, just turn left right here. I like to know the high level. I want to know, do I trust this route? Do I like this route? And so I want you to be thinking about that as well. Like Carol learned from Leslie, a strong outline, a strong plan is that swaddling cloth. It lets you relax fully into the next stage. And then you can be held. And it's wild to feel that safe because you took the time to guide yourself. Does that make sense a little bit? Okay, awesome. Anybody else have a burning emotional or logistic snag that they must unburden themselves with? Jamie, take it.
Well, it's probably minor in the sense, it's actually talking through this is helping me. But last week I didn't even have a mind map. So I created a mind map. I had like my first one, and then I realized that I created a second one off of the first one. But I think so I kind of froze there. I have these like ideas, and so I'd start writing towards like an idea, and I didn't know where to put it. So I have like a going document, and I would just type it somewhere. And so now I have all these different like thoughts in different places. So clearly I need to go in and do an outline. That is my next step, because that's what I am struggling with. But I didn't realize that until jumping on the call, that that's the next
I love that.
step that I need to do.
We always jump to writing, which I call drafting, but we call this entire process writing. And so we've sort of mislabeled and misunderstand the entire process. So we always jump to part 3, which we call writing, which isn't writing, because writing is done well, right? It's drafting, which is done sloppily. But always we just notice the impulse to be there. Sitting down and writing looks like this. Okay. The first time I ever sat down to write a manuscript, I decided to write the book, and that was so terrifying and thrilling. I cleared time on my calendar. I was recently unemployed, so that was easy. Leslie, I have a chapter for your book. I was like 7 to noon. I am going to write every single day from 7 to noon. I'm going to sit down. I'm not going to get up until I'm done. 7 to noon is a really long time. Okay, that is like running a marathon every day from like being a couch potato. And I just sat at my desk because discipline was all I needed to be a writer. Anyone know that storyline? Okay. Did I know what I was writing about? Yes, loosely. I was writing about my adventures in China in 2000 and something, 2003. And I had some handwritten journals and emails that I had sent as proof of life to my family members, and that was it. And I just sat and I wrote, but I had no structure, no container. I didn't know who my reader was, but I was disciplined like nobody's business. That manuscript is still a draft in a folder on a hard drive in my closet. I don't know if that device even works anymore. That's how long ago this was, right? So I hear 2 things. One, it's time for an outline. From your mind map is loose, it's fluid, it's feminine, it's creative. An outline is linear and masculine and chronological in the sense that this will probably be how your reader consumes the information. Doesn't need to be chronological in your experience of it, but it's going to, most people read beginning to end. How do you want to guide your reader through this information? Jennifer's here. She shared a mind map last week. She dumped it all in there and then numbered it. It didn't come out that way, but that's how she wanted to structure it as a first step at it. Brittany, you and I have talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that every chapter gets a Post-it, every topic, say, gets a Post-it, spread them all out on your desk, rearrange them until they make sense. Carol, same thing. I don't like the order that I was putting things in. Fine. Play with other orders. Again, super fan of Post-its because they're so fun. You can just like put them in this order. Nope, don't like that. That doesn't make sense. You can rearrange a couple with no hard feelings, right? So making it chronological, making it linear, excuse me, not chronological, linear, because that will probably be how it's consumed. The second piece of organization that's so valuable, create a folder on your desktop and in the cloud. So when you forget to save, it gets saved. How many people, college or back in the day, wrote everything, it was so ready, you were going to hand it in, and you forgot to save, and then something happened? Okay, let's not have that. Literally, I'm working with somebody here. He's like, I just wrote 6,000 words. And then I like opened a different window and I went back and it was gone. Yeah. Yeah. Like, okay, but if you wrote it once, you can write it again. It just sucks to have to jump that hurdle. So organization and planning is also, where are you going to put your stuff? One folder, give it a name that you will remember, and one document to start. And keep all the pieces in that place. Okay. I always, always, always say, have 2 copies. And every day or every week, make sure that the copy on your hard drive matches the copy in the cloud. Just that. It seems absolutely insignificant at this point, but it'll be really helpful on that day when something goes haywire. And I don't know when it will be, but I guarantee you something will go sideways between now and when we finish our manuscript. I'm going to tell you why I do this, because I used to start my book 7 times and I'd have like 7 documents and I wouldn't remember what they were called or where they were organized. But that I just like kept on doing that first process. Oh, I need a folder that has my mind map in it. I need a folder that has my outline in it. From my outline, I will start drafting. Then I will name the thing, not like Tuesday. I will name the thing outline of my book called whatever, which is why we gave our book a working title. Call it Bob. Don't care what you call it, but give it a name. Okay. I also usually put a date so that I know, like, oh, I worked on this in July. I haven't worked on it since July. Was there another writing session between then and now? Is there a newer version? All these just little things that will help keep you clear with yourself. So outline and a folder organization system. Awesome. Okay. I want us to share and focus. Everybody has access to the course, at least one, if not several courses in the school platform. There are resources, tools, lessons, both in the threads, conversations that are happening, and in the classroom. There are more courses that eventually can be unlocked or you can subscribe up into, but we unlock one course for everybody to start with, the Writing 101, so that everybody starts in the same place, builds the same foundation, and does not feel overwhelmed because there's like 7 different things. Like learn about publishing or learn about my TEDx talk. No. Let's just like stay in our lane and work on the writing. So a couple people have already referenced things that they found in there. What I want us to do with the last half hour is anybody who's spent any time in there or even just been on conversations, what's a single resource, a tool, a lesson that you've found really helpful so far? You want to shout it out. You want to make sure that other people know that it exists. Something that you've learned from being a part of this community or dipping into school.
Yeah, I've came across this, the chapter format example. I don't know if you guys can see it. Of course, it's got my Post-it note on it too. But this is what I've been starting to use. And I mean, instead of my little Post-it note with, you guys can't see it because of my background. But I've been starting to fill out these chapter formats. Super helpful. It's a great tool. So thank you for that.
Fabulous. You are most welcome. You all know that I used to be a high school teacher, right? I've shared that. So I was a high school teacher for 15 years. And most of the time I was working with folks who spoke 2 or 3 languages. English was among them. And I would get essays from teenagers and I was like, it's got the right word count, but I have no friggin' clue what it is that you're talking about. And you've handed me this and it feels like it's my job to discern what it is that you're trying to say. And I'm not doing that anymore. In Colombia, my students could not stop talking. So I used that to my benefit. It's like, great, if you're going to convince me of your point, follow these 13 sentences and prove to me your point. And so I crafted this argument essay structure And they loved it so much so that I got a LinkedIn message from a student like a year and a half ago. He's like, I just took an exam, and he'd graduated 10 years earlier. I took an exam, whatever, I passed the exam, but I followed your 13 sentence essay structure still to this day. And I feel really, really good about it. You can write an entire essay in 13 sentences. I was tried to like boil it down to the simplest. That can be a chapter structure. It can be a chapter skeleton, and then flesh it out. It could be 13 sentences, 13 paragraphs, 13 whatever. And then you just build from there. So in our minds, we have things that make sense, but we don't realize what that structure is. I love that you're playing with that and that it's helpful. I'm going to drop the direct link to that particular lesson in here in case anybody feels like they need that format. It's super simple. It's topic, hook, thesis, 3 points. What's your example or case study? What do you want people to do with that? Is there an action or a tool that you're going to expand? And then transition to the next chapter. This is why, Carol, it's great to know what your next chapter is. If we're moving things around, we don't do those transitions until we know what came before and after. Awesome. I'm glad that the chapter format's working for you. Who else found a tool or a resource, a concept? Yeah, Stace.
I think I've mentioned this before. I've got a couple of things. I've mentioned this before, I know, in that my MO was always just to run until I drop. And that's how I knew I was finished working. I collapsed. And, my superpower, I thought, was that I could hold the hot cold the longest. And I never really thought about rest. And the research shows just the opposite of that scientifically. So I can logically rationalize it. But until I really started thinking about the resource in the vault describing the lunar cycle, I never noticed it. I never had a reason to notice it. And sometimes I don't want to rest on a new moon, but that's okay. At least I know what I'm looking at, and I'm aware that I have been running, or I need to rest, or I have been resting, and now I'm motivated to work. And it really gave me some structure to knowing when I need to produce, when I need to edit, when I need to organize, when I need to rest. And for me, that was a very, very valuable resource. And I know that, Rochelle, you were hitting on some of those key components as well. So for me, that was one thing. The other thing is the mind map. And so let me show you this garbage.
Yay, garbage. I love it. It's all over the place.
Would you like to know how many chapters I had drafted before I did this? 13. 13 written, drafted, shitty chapters before I came up with one shitty mind map. And it wasn't throwing the baby out with the bathwater as I thought it would be. I didn't start 13 chapters over. I just reorganized everything according to what made sense from my mind map and then my outline. And I didn't like that. It was uncomfortable. I thought I'd done something wrong. I thought I was not writing well. I thought I was not writing correctly. And there isn't any correctly. There's only the process, the journey. And that's when I figured it out. But this is a ride. This is not a destination. And so I really gave myself some grace in that space and thought, okay, use the tools and adapt them to your needs, wants, desires. But it does provide structure. And in both scenarios, I didn't know that I needed that structure until I had it.
we think we know how to write. You know, we've been to school. You had a fourth grade teacher, right? Like, sure, that person taught you how to write a book report or whatever, but that same approach doesn't work here, same way necessarily. And again, to clarify, like, the actual phase of the moon in the sky tonight is not some external dictator that tells you now is the time to do the thing. It is an invitation to check in with yourself. Erica, we were talking about this last week, I think. Correct me if I'm misplacing this conversation, but we're like, I wake up and I want to work on my book, right? And I want to work on my book every day. But what does that mean? Working on my book today will be very different than working on my book next week. And working on my book isn't writing necessarily always. But to Stace's point, if you think writing is the only way to work on your book, then you're going to run 10,000 miles until you drop, till you crash through a brick wall. And you're like, oh, I've written 13 chapters. My story, not Stace's story. I wrote 190 text pages on Google. I printed them out. I was so proud of myself. I took pictures for social media. I got a coffee. I went to the coffee shop. I was like, I'm going to read my manuscript. I'm going to start editing. And I was like, there is nothing, there's no through line. There's no clear audience. I don't know what the hell this is. 100 pages for the whole thing. And I was like, nope, this is like stream of consciousness. And I threw it all out because I didn't have an outline. So I'm trying to save you that wonderful social media post and embarrassing day of just writing without taking the time to do the thinking ahead of time. You know, I was diligent, I was dutiful, I was showing up. But sometimes what does working on my book today look like? It's taking a walk, talking with my friends, taking a nap on my balcony. How many people have still resistance to working on my book? It's like making soup. And anybody like, yep, that's me working on my book. Washing dishes, folding laundry. That's me working on my book right now. Leslie, I see you smiling. Okay, working on my book has to be this. I have to be disciplined and I have to be incrementally better than I was yesterday. But what if you work on your book every day? Even the days that you're digesting and processing and resting, shooting the shit with your friends, right? Sometimes a conversation with a colleague can be so much more productive in the evolution of your book process than staring at a blank page for 6 hours. So showing up for your book every day can be showing up differently for the process every day. That's part of what the phases are for, so that you can check in with yourself and say, how can I show up for my book today? Maybe it's planning because I'm feeling organized. Maybe it's editing because I'm feeling really judgmental. I want to tear things apart. Maybe it's a nap because I'm just flat out exhausted. I could keep working, but adrenal fatigue's a real thing. Does that track and make sense? Because we live, work, create from this completely autopilot place. And I want you to bring more self-awareness to the process. You can blaze through all phases in a single day. You can spend a week in a phase, spend a month in a phase. I don't judge, right? But even just recognizing that there are phases, or I haven't touched planning. I've been doing all of this over and over again and it's not working. Maybe it's time to shift up phases. Awesome. Other concepts, tools, resources that have been really helpful to you, even if it's just like something someone said in the call or I read this in the chat. Leslie.
Well, we've been working on accountability buddies. So I've been chatting with Carol, which has been fun. So we're just kind of getting our groundwork done on that, how we're going to support each other. I think that's going to be great for both perspectives, you know, because we're at different places in the process, but it's good to see it from all angles, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we're not like the emotional labor, the burden of I'm doing this thing, but I'm not alone in the thing, right? You know, Carol doesn't have to do your work for you, but then you're not like in an isolation bubble. Like, hey, I did this thing. Somebody can be like, yeah, you did. Or I'm setting out to do this. Awesome, good luck. I don't think we realize how important some of that is. If I don't tell my team what I'm working on this week, guess what? I'm all over the place. But if I give myself, I'm going to do these 3 things, I'll check in on Friday. It really helps. Love that. So glad. Do you all have a hack? Anything that you've discovered that works for you all in terms of how to be supportive for yourselves and one another? Or it's still
My puppy's freaking out.
an accountability puppy.
Yeah, we're just, huh?
An accountability puppy.
Sorry.
Take me for a walk. Take me for a walk.
I'll let Carol talk for a second.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, we're just starting out on this journey, so I think we're trying to figure it out, but I like the, you know, the concept. It's not we need to spend an hour in like a mentor-mentee relationship. It's just, hey, this is what I'm thinking, or hey, did you know, what do you think about this? Or, you know, just somebody to have either like you said, to hold you accountable, or a quick sounding board type thing. So I think, you know, I literally reached out to Leslie a few days ago and she's like, yeah, I'm here to help you. I'm in a different spot in my journey. And, you know, which I think is great, because having her kind of forward-looking perspective will really help me, because that whole 1 step forward, 2 steps back, it was so frustrating. I'm like, I just got to start all over, and I don't want to start all over. But, you know, hearing Stacy and everybody else, it's like, you're really not starting over. You're just kind of grounding yourself in a better place. So, yeah.
If it's a straight line, then you're starting over. If it's a circle, then you're expanding, like the Fibonacci sequence, and you're just like expansive and bringing more information and knowledge to a similar cycle, right?
Yeah.
I know, I literally have written 2 books about like straight line progress. I have. And here I am still like, I'm still learning the same damn lesson. Are you kidding me? Right? Whether it's like with my daughter or in my business or in my writing. Why am I not there yet? There's no there. Okay. Like some spiritual level stuff that was working. Accountability can be super, super simple. And I just want to add some ideas to folks. And then Jennifer, I'm going to give you the mic. It can just be a single, like, working on my stuff right now message to the other person. Okay. Showing up for my book in this process, right? Feeling this phase today. It can be super, super simple, because then we acknowledge it for ourselves. Sometimes they'll get that message and they'll be like, oh, right, I'm writing a book. God. Anybody? Like, absolutely have 9 million things going on. I'm like, oh yeah, I meant to do that. I need an accountability buddy, because I spend all day, every day supporting other people's books. I haven't touched my book in a month. I want to have it published before the end of April. So maybe I should have an accountability buddy. Anybody feeling really dictatorial? Send me a message, because I need that too. But it doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be extensive. It can be super, super, super simple. In fact, it'll probably be better if it's, yeah, once a day, we just check in and say what we're going to work on or what we accomplished. Try that as a strategy with your accountability buddy. Again, if you don't have one, get one. Jennifer, hi.
Hey, so sorry, I've been quietly eating lunch here. I have something just before this every week. So I agree with Stace that the idea of rest is kind of something that is not something I've embraced much up until now. And I've realized that on days when I'm not writing, I'm still digesting things and thinking things through, and the book is evolving in my head. I've also I've been attending workshops at a local writing center that's been giving me some inspiration. And so sometimes I ask myself if like, is this a good thing or a bad thing that I'm going to all these workshops, because it's not, I'm not doing a lot of writing necessarily during this time. Sometimes there are little exercises, I'm writing a little snippet of something, but I feel inspired. I have ideas and concepts to work with. And so it's really not a waste of time. And I feel like I'm in a similar place to Carol, because I have been doing some thinking about what the whole book is going to be about. And I might be scrapping a lot and just going in a different direction with it, in the sense that I was going to write about my journey with a chronic illness and provide some inspiration, kind of like a self-help memoir. But I've kind of been feeling more drawn to making it a more universal story, of like, this is what I went through, but drawing parallels to other things or other people's situations, just anyone who feels like they've had the rug pulled out from under them and feels like they've had to reinvent themselves, or their life didn't go in a direction they wanted to. I kind of feel more drawn to maybe a larger audience of people than just people with my specific disorder that have gone through what I've gone through. So that's where I am right now. I'm fearful of kind of like completely changing directions, but that's where I'm feeling drawn.
Yeah.
So just kind of like the idea that it is a dance and it's in flux, and that's okay. Like, that makes me feel better about all this.
And it's a discovery, right? The book is
Mhm.
not written. It's
Mhm.
we talk about this when we're looking at the reader's journey, and the hero's journey, and it's sort of a cycle, and we have to reject everything that we know and sort of get lost, find a guide, get lost, burn everything to the ground, and then reconstruct. Eventually, we want to do that for our reader, but sometimes we do that whole process first, right? Whether it's through your lived experience and then you write about it, or even just discovering this process. It is blows my mind. Every single book you've ever read, ever, is a final draft. We don't know how many years it took. We don't know how many people worked on it. We don't know how many times it was revised.
Mhm.
So the only, it would be like trying to cook something for the first time, but you've only eaten in Michelin star restaurants your whole life. And then you cook, I don't know, you make a bowl of cereal and you're like, it's not a 3-star bowl of cereal. We're comparing things that we can't sort of see over the hurdle. I was talking to somebody this morning. I feel really, really lucky because I read a lot of drafts. I read a lot of messy middle, right? And it's one of the things that you can begin to get out of this community as well. When you're ready to share a piece and ask for feedback, not only are you getting feedback from someone, you're letting them see your work in progress. And that's going to help. We learn so much, whether we're offering feedback for somebody or receiving feedback. It is such a rich space. So I love, Jennifer, that you are in the process. I love that you have courage to potentially toss the whole original plan up in the air. And I think now at the beginning is a great time to try a bunch of things. I feel like you're preparing for a journey, right? You're
And I just
gathering
know
a
what
bunch
makes
of
me feel
resources.
more excited right now about setting off on that
Yep.
journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At some point, a later stage in your process, that might not be the approach that supports you the best, because then it feels like super distracting. At this point, if it's working for you, go for it. That's all that matters, right? And that's that honing of awareness of like, which phase am I in? What's working? Just because it worked before doesn't mean it has to work in the future. Because it worked before, then I can try something else. I love that. Lanisha, welcome back. I haven't seen you. Happy New Year. Can you, yeah, you unmuted it.
Yeah. Happy
Welcome
New
back,
Year.
my friend.
I have been sick for the last couple of weeks, and like it took me out, and we were traveling, and so traveling while you sick sucks. And then when I got home, it was just like, okay, I just need to still not do anything for a little bit. So I'm happy to be feeling better. And I'm always thankful for this community. I have missed this group, and so I'm thankful to start re-engaging. But I think at the same time, for me, like from the time I first met Sierra to now, I thought I would have been finished with my final draft, and I haven't even done my outline yet. And so I just want to assure y'all it's all good. And I am so at peace with it. It just makes my heart happy. I'm like, cause I'm right, I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And for me, I'm in a space, I am doing some planning. I've talked to Sierra before about not having space at home that I feel is my writing space. And so it has been a slow process, but I have one more bed to sell, and then I will have a room. Hopefully that bed will be out of here today, but then it just started snowing. So I got to wait until I can get my stuff in here and create. Cause I mean, when you work at home, and I don't travel, I don't get out much. It's like, okay, so like my whole day is monotonous. I'm looking at the same four walls every day. I'm sitting on the couch doing work. I definitely don't want to sit on the couch and write a draft. And so I'm looking forward to being able to have that shift. Like I'm in my bedroom right now. And for me, I like my bedroom to only be where I sleep. Like I don't need it for anything else. This is where I sleep. My treadmill's in here. I don't like working out anymore because I'm like, so I'm trying to separate myself a little bit more and give myself that space. And so I redid my uh authority
Performance
statement.
framework. Yeah, an authority
Yeah,
statement.
the framework. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. But and I've sort of like started writing out, just I'm still like writing out things when I feel like, oh, I need a paper, I need my dictionary, I need a pen. And like for an hour, I'm just inspired. I just like listen, and I just started just sort of jot out what I'm hearing right now. So I'm just gathering. And I know once I should have my space set by the end of this month, like the way that I need it as far as a working office. And I think that that will help me. But I'm also learning a new normal for my life and being stable in a way that I have not been in the last over 10 years. And so I moved to Oregon almost 11 years ago, but I have literally moved to a different place, residence, every year since I've been in Oregon. And this is going to be the first time that I'm somewhere longer than a year. And so embracing that stability, because it's also for me part of, as I'm writing about God's faithfulness and his love towards us, understanding like I've been through all of this, and yet the promises may seem unfulfilled because our timing is not God's time, but it's all in the right time. And so I'm embracing the fulfillment of the promise so that I can write about it in a different way to help encourage people. And so I'm just continuing to see what that looks like, feels like, and taking
Love
it
that.
in.
I'm so glad that you're back. I've missed your face. I'm super happy that you found that like I am where I need to be in the process, because there's a lot of tension if we're trying to force. In the planning resources, you'll see that we specifically call out planning time, planning content, and planning space. They are each different skill sets, and you can have the time, but not the space, or you can have the content and the space, but not the time. You need each of those. This is where I work, when I work, and what I'm working on. All of those are critical pieces. And we've talked about this too, but I want to challenge any preconceived notions you have about how, where, when work. Sometimes I write when I'm walking my dog. Sometimes, not usually in Colombia because people drive like maniacs, but if I were in the United States and I had a commute, I would love to talk through things on a drive. Okay, give me a wide open road, I'm in heaven. Hit record on my voice text app. Here's my post-it on the chapter, let me rip. Here I just do that walking, because motorcycles will keep you not are like this. But whatever preconceived notion you have about how to write. I've told you about my European staunchy professor. Like there is a blowhard that lives in my psyche who is the only person who has authority to write. And so that person needs like a dark office, a whiskey, a mistress, like whatever. That person is another person in my head. This person likes to talk. This person likes to walk. And so playing with how you show up and how you guide and support that space. Okay. So I love that you bring that up. I love that you're creating space for yourself in a way that's going to work for you, because yeah, this is where I work. If I come and sit down with my computer at my desk where I work on other people's books, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to be checking all of my softwares, checking on all my other things, and I am not going to work on my book because my muscle memory is trained here to do other stuff. Even it can be as simple as like, this is where I work on my book, and this is where I work on my client stuff. It doesn't have to be significant. I don't need an addition to my house. I just need a little bit of something. Maybe I light a different candle. Something that marks, this is how I do this for this purpose. So I love that. Last thoughts, questions, anything before we wrap up and send you off into the ether to do your own process for the week? Nothing?
Just
Anything?
put out there, if anybody is looking for an accountability partner, I am late to the game. But shoot me a message on school or whatnot and see what happens.
I have a quick question. I think there's an orientation or something tomorrow. Is that open to anyone?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
we have we're looking at how best to support everybody, recognizing that there are people at different phases, needing different things, et cetera, et cetera. So there are 2 new events that are recurring in the calendar, and you'll see them in the calendar tab. There's a monthly Q&A. It's on a Saturday. Some people just have different schedules. I'm probably also going to acknowledge that the world is round and maybe even make an evening event, because we do have some people who live on the other side of the planet, and this is like 3 a.m. But there's a once a month Q&A. Anything can happen there. Carol was at Saturdays, first Saturday of every month currently, and then twice a month onboarding call. You're sort of new to the community. You want a look around. We want to welcome you. You can come to all of these. I'm not going to be like, you came once and I'm not going to welcome you again. This is just a free for all. We want to be inviting more people. You will have noticed perhaps that while this call is for people who are specifically paying for it and getting more guidance, the community at large is actually now free. So you can invite other people. There's going to be some new people who are looking at just the basic resources. They don't get into this call unless they're committed. But there will be more voices in the community. We're opening it up to all 280 former authors who have ever worked with us. So we just want people to know how to best use the resources available. You are more than welcome. It's on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then again 2 weeks later. So every 2 weeks, there'll just be a, hey, welcome. Not how many people are new to the school platform and maybe never been on school before hanging with us?
Well, I've been on there a couple of weeks, but
Okay, but that's still new, right? It's not Facebook and we've been playing here for 18 years. Okay, so it's a whole new platform and like that kind of thing. We just want to make sure people know what it can do and how to have fun and like drop a gift in every comment. Who cares? Like we're not going to take ourselves so seriously. Fun things, but also if you don't comment, then you can't unlock and make a post. And like there's people get confused and all of that stuff. So you are more than welcome in there, but it's a new space because we will be, there are lots and lots of people working on books, and the more people creates more momentum and more sharing and more potential readers in the future for your books, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so yeah, join us. Other questions, logistic, emotional, writing, becoming famous, powerful? Anything?
I had
One-
another thought, another kind of like aha moment this past week, and that was that somebody gave me some advice that when it comes to my story, that I don't have to come up with a neat resolution because I'm talking about how I've managed with this, struggle in my life, and that I don't have to present it as like, hey, I'm all better now. Now I'm living a perfect life. I don't know if that was just my aha moment for for the week.
I think that is super revolutionary, and that in itself, as a takeaway from a book, is such a relief as a
Mhm.
reader. Something that doesn't tell me that there's like 10 steps to be awesome and that I have to be awesome at the end and be like, guess what? I'm not done yet, because done is dead, right? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to win that game right now. I don't want to win that game. I want to learn how to salsa metaphorically, not literally, right? The men's mental health book, this came up, and we're actually going to do, I'm interviewing one of the participants because this came up significantly, right? Imagine, and Stacey's writing a chapter for this book too, but imagine that you're invited, you're a man, you're invited to write a chapter on mental health. No, I don't have it all sorted out. I have not mastered mental health as a 21st century man. I am not qualified to write a chapter on mental health. It's really hard to navigate that and also give ourselves permission wherever you feel like you fall from like current hot mess in the mental health department to 100% sorted out. Never going to have a mental health issue ever again. Nope, that's not a realistic destination. So like, just even addressing that it's a spectrum and that there is no recipe. You're not aiming to write a cookbook.
Mhm.
You're sharing an experience of, here we are, sharing the human experience, and there is not a one and done, do these 7 things and you will all be set. We love those books, but they're flawed by definition because it's not how it works, right? So I love that. Sharing the human experience and not having it all sorted out. Great. My last book is called Typo, The Art of Imperfection, Permission to Do It Badly. That's the new goal. It's weird. It's rebellious, but I like it. Awesome. Sending blessings. Reach out to each other, share any process. Feel free to use the thread just as like accountability, but also if having an individual person to nudge, that's great. You'll be seeing new, more resources expanding in the community. But I love Tuesdays because I really like hearing from you, spending time with you, seeing your progress, your realizations. Thanks for showing up for yourself, for your story. See you next week. Ciao.